Executive Suite with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nisi.
Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and today we are going to talk about a brand that everybody in New England knows, especially Southern New England, Honeydew Donuts. And we're here with the man who started it all, Richard Bowen. He's the founder and CEO. Dick, thanks for being here.
Oh, you're very welcome, Ted. Nice to be here.
My crew is overjoyed at the number of donuts and other baked goods you have supplied us with today, making for a lovely edible prop for all of us. And we're going to talk a lot about that and what's going on with the company. But I actually want to start with the origin story of Honeydew, because it's really interesting. And you are not a CEO who came in late to the game. This has been your life's work. And I know you kind of fell in love with donuts when you were a boy, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. 42 years ago, first of all, we opened up the first Honeydew donut shop in Mansfield, Mass. And that was my lifelong dream to do that, without question. I think it all started when I was a kid. I'm the oldest of 7 children. And we lived in the projects in Rosendale at the time. And my dad was probably the hardest working guy I ever met. He worked 2 jobs, actually. He drove for the MBTA during the day. And at night, he was a donut baker. And being the oldest of the family and a boy to boot, I really missed not seeing my father. So as I got to be 8 or 9 years old, I started to really bug him that maybe he would take me into the donut shop with him at night and work. When I did reach 10 years old, he did let me do that. And I used to go with him on Friday and Saturday nights. And I would fry the donuts, and he would cut the donuts and roll the dough out and the whole thing, and I would fry them. All you donut makers out there, you know what I'm talking about with the fry sticks.
And did you just love it right away?
I did, and for a bunch of reasons. First of all, I loved that all the cops would come in the middle of the night, and we would talk about sports, and we would talk about the weather, and we'd talk about politics. And in New England, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, both, there's always lots to talk about. So that was fun. And I loved the fact that the man that owned the donut shop was doing very, very well. Mm-hmm. He had a house with a backyard, which we didn't have because we lived in the projects. And he had a family car that didn't break down all the time, which we didn't have either. So that made a pretty big impression on me as a kid. So I grew to love the business for that reason, and also the fact that it did interact with the people. It's a refreshment business. Yeah. And it's fun. It really is fun. It's hard work, but it's a lot of fun.
Now, you came up with the name also at a pretty young age, right? Honeydew. You've been thinking about this a long time.
That's right. During my high school years, I worked at this donut shop with my father every Friday and Saturday night. But I always wanted to open up my own donut shop. And that's what I had in mind was just one. And I'll never forget the name. Coming up with the name, I was a junior in high school, and I'm sitting there in history class, and I should have been paying attention to the teacher, but I really wasn't. I was really looking at coming up with some different names for donut shops, and I did come up with the name Honeydew. And I remember writing it on my school book cover years ago, and I think they still do it today. The kids cover their books with brown paper bags from the supermarket and what have you. And I remember writing that, and I wish I saved that.
Yeah, you could frame it in the Plainville store.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as you mentioned, you opened the first store in Mansfield, Massachusetts, 1973, though you're based in Plainville today.
Right.
I have to ask, do you remember how much did you charge when you opened up that first store?
Oh, for coffee and donuts?
For coffee and donuts.
That's a great question, Ted, because it goes back. I remember 20 cents being the cup of coffee. For a cup of coffee, and a donut was 10 cents.
10 cents for a donut.
So for 30 cents, you'd get a cup of coffee and a donut. And today, it's quite different.
Now, you're known, you have a lot of different flavors in your baked goods as well as in your coffees. Did you do a lot of that to start with, or did that build over the years? Were you pretty traditional when you opened up the first store?
Oh my gosh, it's changed so much, our industry. When I opened the very first store, we sold mostly donuts. I think the actual product mix of our sales was close to 70% of donuts and 30% of coffee. And the donuts were very, very, that was our menu. It was a very basic menu for sure. There were no muffins, there were no breakfast sandwiches, that type of thing. And the coffee itself was just regular coffee or Sanka. I remember the little orange packets which you used to rip open.
You're dating yourself now.
And that's exactly right. Oh, yeah. And there were no bagels and all. It was very, in fact, you could sit there with a cup of coffee and a cigarette as well. So this is the way the environment was then, and it's certainly changed over the years.
Now you say it was 70-30 donuts to coffee then. Do you know what that ratio is today?
Yes, I do. Donuts are probably 7 or 8%.
Wow.
Believe it or not. And coffee is 70%.
So it just soared with the desire for coffee over
Absolutely.
that. What do you think's driven that? Are people drinking more coffee? Is it you guys became better known for your coffee? What do you think happened with
I
that?
think we've become better known for our coffee, and also New England has changed. We used to be a big donut eating area, as we are ice cream.
Right.
But it has changed a lot in this environment, and I remember Krispy Kreme came up to this area to open up many years ago, and their business model was a 90% donut, and they failed miserably.
Didn't work, yeah.
Because of the fact that New Englanders just don't eat donuts like they used to. And plus there's many more food offerings that we have. For instance, muffins and breakfast sandwiches and bagels and all alike. So that's probably diluted the interest for donuts over the years.
Now I believe when you opened the first one, was your dream to have you have 100? How many Honeydews are there today?
150.
About 150. So was your dream that day when you opened the Mansfield? We're going to have 150 of these at some point.
I didn't think of that at all.
No.
I would have liked a few, but I didn't think of 150. Quite honestly, all I thought of was what was in front of me, and that was paying the bills on this very, very first one. I started with very little cash. I had IOUs all over the town of Mansfield, and with the carpenter, with the plumber, the electrician, and so forth. And that was pretty much what I was focused on, is making a success out of that very first one. Because you can't go to second base unless you've gone to first base
That's
first.
right. So what led you when you said we could do a lot of these? This could be a hit.
I thought of that about a year and a half, 2 years into the first one, after I opened up the first one. And I had a very good customer of mine that I became friends with, and he wanted to open up Honeydew. So I said, son of a gun, this just may work. So I got him to sign an agreement. In fact, it was a Mr. Donut agreement that I found, and just changed a few of the names.
Yep.
And turned that into a franchise agreement, and it worked out real good. We opened up a unit together in the city of Taunton, and that was our second store. And this man and his wife and his family worked very, very hard and made it a success.
And the franchisee is now very important to Honeydew, right? To your model, your business model for the chain.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, there's nothing more important than our franchisees. They're without question. We have 65 franchisees, families in the chain that are committed to the brand, committed to themselves, and they work very, very hard day in and day out. And they are, without question, our biggest asset are our people.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Honeydew's Dick Bowen about the future of the chain and what his favorite donut is. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and we are talking today about the business of, it's really the business of coffee now, although it used to be the business of donuts more than anything, Honeydew, with founder and CEO of Honeydew, Dick Bowen. And Dick, we were talking a bit about getting through the history to the present day. You mentioned about 150 Honeydews. How big is your footprint? Where are Honeydews? What's your geographic spread now?
Sure. We're up to mid-New Hampshire, I would say. And we go all the way down to westerly Rhode Island.
Have you considered going further out in New England or even past New England? What's your thinking on that?
My thinking, for the most part, is no. Just as soon stay in New England. I love New England. Again, I love the people. I love the atmosphere. I love everything about it. And I'd rather have a strong presence here and stay right here and add more stores to our chain. But to stay right here in New England. I'm up for growth, for sure. I like 10% a year. That's my magic number. I've never been one for rapid growth. I like to be, I want our growth to be controllable. What we've worked very hard for over the past few years, I don't want to jeopardize that in any way by rapid growth. So it's worked out very, very well.
How do you decide? A big part of your business is actually it's a real estate business in a way. Where do you know, not just getting the locations, but scouting the locations. Where should they go? What's the traffic pattern like? Things like that.
Right.
How do you decide? You know, what goes into that decision on where you put a new Honeydew?
Primarily, I've always focused, and my philosophy has always been to be the apple pie and ice cream chain of America, and certainly in New England. And I like to go where there's churches, there's schools, there's synagogues, there's downtown town halls. This is a refreshment business that we're in. And I love it when people come into our shops and sit down and relax and enjoy a cup of coffee and talk about whatever they're talking about, because that's the beauty of coffee shops. And so that's what I always look for. Downtown locations are locations that are in amongst the people. Post office, fire department. Those are the folks that are primarily our loyal customers.
And I have to ask about the elephant in the room for you guys always, Dunkin' Donuts. There's so many Dunkins nowadays. And I did have people say to me when I got on, ask them, how do you fight that David and Goliath fight where there's about 50 billion of those at this point? But you guys hold strong. What's your strategy? I mean, at some point you had to realize, wow, they're going to build a lot of these Dunkin' Donuts in New England. What was your strategy over the years to focus on your chain and what you could do to counter that?
Well, you say Dunkin' Donuts?
Have you heard?
I've never even heard of it.
Orange. They had not Starbucks. That's a green. Yeah.
Listen, I have a lot of respect for that company and the founder, Mr. Rosenberg. He's a terrific guy, along with Ray Kroc and many other pioneers of the fast food industry years ago. There's competition out there with this company, without question, and they're big. But competition is really good, and I mean that sincerely. It's good for all of us because it keeps us on the ball. I just assume they not be there, but I'll be honest with you, but they are, so we just deal with it. We make sure that we don't take our eye off the ball. Quality, cleanliness, and service are the three most important factors, and I mean this. Day one, that was always my philosophy, to make sure we always maintain that level, high level of quality, cleanliness, and service. And as long as we continue to do that, we'll not only be able to withstand the onslaught of competition, which is going to be around, but also the recessionary periods that we've gone through. That's as difficult, if not more difficult, than competition. And this has always been my philosophy. Never take your eye off the ball.
I have to ask too, we were talking about real estate. People sometimes they see there's no coffee shop. Then one of you builds a coffee shop, and then within a couple of years, the other ones across the street or nearby. What goes into that decision? Is it, some people think, well, why would you want two next to each other? Wouldn't you want to go to some place where there's no coffee shop? Why does that happen?
It seems like that happens all the time, even with the burger places and
exactly, not just in your
stores
business or drugstores. Yeah,
Walgreens,
right
CVS.
across from CVS.
I mean, it's just
yeah.
amazing. Well, first of all, the company that goes in there knows what they're doing. They've done the research, and there's a disadvantage for being the first one, and then there's certainly an advantage for being the second. But they've pioneered the market. They've generated the business already, and got people to want coffee, want burgers, whatever it is. And then along comes a competitor, which again is a good thing. And it is amazing. There's no question about it. I've been in various areas where we've done X amount of dollars of business for 10 years, and all of a sudden somebody else comes in and does the same amount, and my business dropped off a little bit because there's competition, but then it gets right back up. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere is more retail dollars in this particular area. And
so it's probably the growing pie versus the same coffee and donut pie getting carved
That's
up.
exactly right. And again, it's a good thing because it does keep you on the ball. You can always fold your tent up and call it quits, start cutting corners and stupid things like that. But as long as you don't do that, you'll not only survive, but you'll prosper.
So I have to ask, what are your most popular products today at Honeydew?
Coffee.
Coffee, number one.
Number one coffee.
Is it today's coffee? Is it hot coffee? Is it the Mocha Madness? Something else?
That's another thing that's changed over the years, Ted, and that's iced coffee. Iced coffee is so popular today. In the summertime, without question, we sell more iced than hot.
Yeah.
In my generation, that's like unthinkable. You know,
and mine's something will get hot in the summer.
Exactly. During the winter, we're probably 60-40 on hot versus iced.
So ice still does pretty well in the winter, huh?
Amazing. All the youngsters do. The millennials and
Yeah.
and the young people love iced coffee all the time. And again, when I first started, we didn't even sell iced coffee. It was all hot coffee and Sanka, as I told you earlier.
How about on the food side? What are people favorites on Honeydew on the food side?
Well, again, donuts are declining quite a bit. Our muffins are picking up wonderful. We have an absolutely fantastic muffin that we sell, along with donuts, but the muffins are just superb. And bagels and breakfast sandwiches. Our famous signature product, the cinnamon stick.
Yep.
Which is absolutely to die for. It's just the most delicious thing you ever had. Especially that new one we come out with now. It's a blueberry cinnamon stick.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
And it is out of this world, I'll tell you. But this is it. We have to keep going. We have to always be in a state of improvement and change, and it's a good thing. Never stand still.
Before we go to break, what's your favorite? What do you get when you go to a Honeydew?
I'm still an old donut guy, and I get my favorite, and always will be, is a coconut jelly stick.
Coconut jelly
That's
stick.
right.
Wow. All right. That is out there a little bit for
Yes,
me.
it
I'm more
is.
traditional than you. That is too funny. You're amazingly trim for a man who's been eating donuts for all these decades. We're going to talk. Maybe we'll get his diet secrets, but we're also going to talk about the charitable work they do at Honeydew. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and we are here with the tastiest set we've ever had on Executive Suite with Dick Bowen. He's the CEO and founder of Honeydew. Founded it 42 years ago, right?
That's
42
correct.
years ago. Founded in Mansfield, Massachusetts. Now they're all over southern New England. And Dick, I'm curious. You were talking about how much the product lineup has changed. How do you go about sort of the R&D, the research and development of finding what new products to get, and what's your focus right now in terms of where you're looking at new products?
Okay, I'm not sure I can share that with you.
Oh,
as
good
far
point,
as
right.
the focus is concerned. We have to keep that down.
So what's been the recent focus, maybe?
Well, I'll start off by saying this, that, and I said earlier, my greatest asset is the people that are in my chain, and the folks, the franchisees that are in the trenches every single day of the week. And we have committees for just about everything in our chain. And one of the committees is made up of franchisees and the food group committee, food and beverage group. So they're the folks that do all the research. They really scour the landscape, look at the competition, see what they're doing, read the magazines, see what's coming, go to the various restaurant and food shows that are throughout the United States, and see what's happening. Because again, I always say, you stand still, you go backwards, and especially in our business, there's no question about that. You've got to listen to your customers, and you've got to adapt to change. Otherwise, we'd still be just serving coffee and Sanka and having a cigarette with our coffee. And that's what we've always done. The latest craze, of course, is breakfast sandwiches. Everybody's competing with everybody, too, on the breakfast sandwich end of it. And drinks, smoothies, and all those wonderful, tasty, delicious hot coffee drinks that we have as well. So we've got to stay there. That's what the customers are looking for. Along with clean stores, quality products, and fast and accurate service.
People always say food service is one of the toughest, if not the toughest, industries to be in. A lot of times talk about restaurants, but that too. What do you think? What do you say to that? Do you think that's true?
Oh, without question. It's so easy to build a store and to run it for a couple of months, and then when the dust has settled, that's the time when you really have to roll your sleeves up and continue to do the job 7 days a week and make sure that it's consistent. Our customers want consistency. That's the name of the game. If a chain is inconsistent, the chain probably going to be out of business in not too distant future.
How about the price of food? I know we've done shows with folks with restaurants and things before, and that's a big thing that you can't control. You said coffee, 70% of the business. I mean,
Right.
if something happens in South America with coffee prices,
Right.
you're going to feel that, right?
Right.
What's been the trends with food prices in recent years? Has it been a challenge, or have they been pretty stable for you?
It's always been a challenge. I can remember 35, 40 years ago, sugar went up to a god-awful price. That knocked out a lot of bakeries in those days. Coffee went crazy, double the price we're paying now years ago, and we're only getting 30 cents a cup. So withstanding and dealing with those challenges has always been a challenge, for us to do, always. And again, you've just got to keep your eye on the ball, and right now the problem are eggs.
Eggs, yes. I was just reading the other day, eggs are way up, yeah.
There's a shortage of eggs because of an influenza. So you're going to see everything go up a little bit that has to do with eggs. And that's a good part of our business as well. Fortunately, it's 30% and not like the old days, 70%.
Right.
So that won't affect us too much. We have a committee in the franchise chain that buys coffee. And they buy sometimes a year or two out. So if it did go sky high now, we could last another year before we'd have to increase the price.
Before you'd feel it.
You've got to increase prices. That is so much better than compromising your quality of your product. That's the key. You can't compromise your product. You can't compromise your service. And so you've got to increase prices, but you can't be greedy. You've got to do it in a marginal way that's just not hurting your customers.
So I know you were excited to talk about, you've been working with former Patriot Joe Andruzzi on his charitable foundation. I believe is it the brightly colored donut in the front there goes along with him?
That's right. That's right.
The red and blue speckled one?
That's right. That's the Joe Andruzzi donut. And yeah, this has been a delightful partnership with Joe. One of the great things about being in a successful chain is the opportunity to pay it forward, as we like to say, to the communities that help you get to where you are. And we've been doing that for a long, long time with a scholarship program and many other things. But one of the things we did years ago was breast cancer research. We donated tons of money over the years for mammograms for a woman that couldn't afford a mammogram. And as a result, Obamacare now covers that expense, which is wonderful. So rather than stay on with that, we moved on to the Joe Andruzzi Foundation. I met Joe a couple of years ago and was very impressed with what he and his wife Jen told us about their foundation, that they support the financial needs for people that are recovering from cancer. People don't think about that. People think about the expenses for the hospital bills and all of that.
Yeah.
But the expenses that go with it, they're usually out of work and they're recovering and they're missing mortgage payments and that type of thing. So that's what the foundation is all about, and we are so proud to be part of it. And we had a big campaign this last fall and raised $40,000, and that helped 55 people have a brighter day, and that's what we were looking to do.
Only about 30 seconds left in the show, Dick. So
Yes.
You've been doing this, as we said, more than 40 years. You ever think about retiring, and do you hope it stays in your family, the business?
No and yes.
No and yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Good short answers
Yes.
there. Yeah. Is it good? Do you proud to run a family business?
Pardon me?
Proud to run a family business?
Oh, absolutely. One of the nicest things I've had opportunities is to see my kids. I got 6 kids. Each one of them has worked in the donut shops over the years. 2 brothers, my brother Bob and my brother Gary, and all of their kids have worked as well. And now I go into the shops and I see my grandkids in there working. So that's something that is just irreplaceable, and it's a wonderful feeling.
Pretty easy to be popular dad when you come home with donuts too.
Oh yeah.
All right, that's all the time we have this week. Dick, thank you so much for being here. Dick Bowen from Honeydew, and be sure to join us again next week for another interview. And remember, you can get all the shows now on iTunes. See you next week on Executive Suite.